I will call this October 21st, 2025 meeting of the Wakefield Conservation Commission to order. And first is a roll call. Jennifer,
Present.
Eleanor,
Present.
and I'm also present. Welcome to the team, Ethan, Judy. I see Brian McGrail and John Ogren joined us as well. So the first matter of business is then approve minutes. September 16th, September 23rd, September 30th, and October 7th. And I saw, Jennifer, you sent around today a couple changes to the September 30th minutes. I guess a change to the September 30th minutes.
Yeah, one change.
Eleanor, did you have any other issues or concerns with any of the minutes?
Give me a second. I thought I had commented, sorry. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
I was fine with the 9:16 and the 9:23 minutes.
Okay.
I missed the 9:30 and the 10:07 minutes. So I'll have to take a look at those.
All right, we'll postpone on those two. Maybe we can have a motion to approve the first two sets of minutes, the September 16th and 23rd meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the September 16th and 23rd minutes.
Okay. You'll second?
Yes.
Thanks. All in favor? Jennifer?
Yes.
Eleanor?
Yes.
And I vote yes. For the September.
And sorry, I did see the 10:07 minutes and I had no comments, so I'm good to approve those.
All right, then maybe we do yet another motion to deal with those.
I did have a question about those. There's a section of the October 7th minutes that just says erosion control question. And I wondered if that maybe needed to be either just removed or
I would remove that.
clarified.
Okay, but Eleanor, you have not reviewed the September 30th minutes, the ones that Jennifer edited.
Not her new edit, but let me,
Okay.
I was in transit before. I'm fine with the edit that Jennifer made on the 9:30.
Okay. So you'd be willing to approve that one as well?
Approve that as edited by Jennifer.
Okay. We'll add that to the motion.
And then on 10:07, for the 10:07 minutes, I agree with Jennifer's comments on the removing the erosion control.
Okay.
Sorry, and then I'm getting confused because we're so backlogged on the minutes. I'm not used to seeing 4 at once. I am good with the 9:16. So 9:16, 9:23, 9:30, 10:07. Okay.
All right. Maybe we can do a motion to approve all 4 of those.
I'll make a motion to approve all those as with the requested edits by Jennifer Fanning.
Okay, and Jennifer?
Second that.
Okay. Then all in favor? Eleanor?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. Okay. Thanks. We are getting caught up. The next order of business 7:08, so we can move on. Is DEP 313 still XXX? Jean P. Marcelin, 17 Valley Street, notice of intent for the construction of the garage.
This one, they requested to continue it. That just came through today.
Okay, so we'll continue that to the first meeting in November.
Yep.
Thank you, Ethan.
Ethan, have you reached out to the DEP to see if they can expedite the number? I know they sent a communication in the past, but sometimes the requests were getting lost because they were in a transition period.
They confirmed that they received it.
Okay, all right, thank you.
That's about all we get out of them at this point.
It hasn't been that long. We usually get ours a lot faster, but I think it's only been a couple weeks, so
Okay.
it's in the works.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Our next one isn't scheduled until 7:25. So why don't we deal with salt storage at Edgewater Park right now? Since Ethan circulated a sketch map. For that one.
Sure. I went out there, and if you can see this, I identified the storm drains like we discussed, and then the distance to the nearest wetland.
Hi, everyone. I'm so sorry I'm late. I had trouble logging in, but this is Emily Verga from Hobbsbrook.
Hey there.
How are you?
Good, thanks.
Thank you so much for being willing to discuss this tonight.
So you're representing the owner of the Edgewater complex?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Do you want to speak to it at all, Emily?
Sure. There isn't much to share other than we had previously stored our salt in another location and were notified that it wasn't in a proper location in terms of its proximity to the wetlands. So we are just trying to find a place that makes the most sense, still tucked out of the way, but definitely not within the buffer zone at all.
Okay. So this particular location, based on what's on our screens, looks like it's 60 feet from the wetland boundary. So it's outside of the 25-foot no-go zone that we'd like to see. And it's beyond 50 feet. And it's 150 feet from the storm drain to the west, and it looks 110 feet from the storm drain to the east. Is it going to be, you're going to be putting a structure over the salt? Is that what I understand?
Yes, that's correct. Ethan was kind to share all the guidelines with us, but we haven't purchased the structure yet because we want to make sure that we know exactly where it's going and how big it should be.
Yeah.
But it will be covered.
Okay, and I think obviously the objective is to have a structure that keeps the moisture, keeps stormwater, storms, snow and rain, sleet, whatever, from reaching the salt, especially given that you're sitting on a parking lot. Is your parking lot graded so it drains away from the wetlands then as well?
It does, yes.
Okay. But I'm guessing those storm drains probably drain into the wetlands adjacent, or am I mistaken about that?
I have a map that I'm happy to send along. I don't have it available at this moment, but I have it in my files that show where the storm drains run into. I don't believe that they run into the wetlands.
Okay.
I don't want to speak out of turn, but I don't believe they do. I can share that tomorrow with Ethan.
Okay. And I see that you've moved the salt storage, so it's outside of the area that is water quality protection for the Zone A water source,
Correct.
namely the Saugus River, I guess.
Yep.
Okay. Ethan, those were some of the concerns I know you highlighted to me. Anything else you want to speak to on that?
Yeah, on the guidance and the guidelines we looked at, essentially, as long as it's outside of that zone A and protected from creating contaminated runoff, then that's typically all they ask for you to do.
Okay,
So as long as the shed shelters it from the snow, rain, as well as anything running along the ground, then it should be okay.
okay. We don't actually take an action on this, do we, or do we?
You could just vote to come to a consensus, although it doesn't require any approval.
Okay. Sounds like you know, the proposal meets the concerns that we'd likely have. Eleanor, Jennifer,
Yeah.
questions?
I think this is a better solution by far, and thank you for initiating, improving the storage there.
Oh, of course, yes. Once it was brought to our attention, because I apologize, we didn't realize that it wasn't within the guidelines. So once it was brought to our attention, we definitely wanted to make sure that we were in compliance.
Jennifer, anything to add?
No, I don't have anything to add.
Okay, I think we're good with this, Emily. I don't know if you need a vote from us about it, or as Ethan said, we don't actually have approval authority on it. And
Okay.
I
Well,
think-
honestly, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, I think we're all comfortable with the approach you've taken. It's stepping up to a responsible way to deal with the fact that you need the road salt to protect your tenants and their vehicles. So,
Yeah.
Averting-
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm sorry, Eleanor.
Well, no, I was just going to say it's averting a potential alteration if that salt got into the wetland.
yeah,
Yeah, definitely. And once we put the structure up and everything's set and ready, I'm happy to share photos and just let Ethan know. So if anyone wants to come and take a look, make sure everything looks okay.
okay, great. Yeah, and you'll share the information on the storm drains with Ethan. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. I don't think we have anything more on that tonight. So,
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
yep, thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
You too.
Bye.
If we're going to move to wetland bylaw discussion, I suggest we take that up after we get through the rest of our agenda and maybe talk about administrative/coordination matters.
That would be good.
Okay. Eleanor, did you want to speak to that?
Oh, let's see, there were just a couple of things. Give me 1 second while I gather my thoughts. I did receive an email notification. I mean, I guess I would say the general theme is, I think with only 3 of us, we really have to work extra hard to improve communication amongst the commission and with other boards. You know, we did receive an email, I think it was last week, dated the 9th, from the planning board related to the bylaw. Did you see that?
I did.
Oh, I just was perplexed why that kind of continued to go on since, you know, clearly we weren't going to town meeting on October 3rd. And certainly after our first public forum was very clear from our agenda and certainly publicly that we did not have a proposed bylaw. So I just feel like these, we've had a communication July 8th from Joe Conway. Then we had another communication September 16th, and we made the point of saying we would work to address that. We're just taking initial, going through our process of vetting our bylaws, seeing what people will buy into. So I guess I'm just curious where we think, these miscommunications keep occurring. And
Well,
what
I
we can
think-
do to be more proactive, maybe to make other boards aware of, where we're at, because it's disconcerting, I guess, to get a communication like that, that just seems kind of off base.
Well, at the time that the September communications came in, there was still discussion going on about the possibility of bringing the bylaw to the fall town meeting. I think that ended by the first meeting in October.
Right.
We concluded that we couldn't get there.
But
And it may have been that the communications in September, for example, from Joe Conway and Bill Renault were based on their expectation that we were still working towards the fall town meeting. But as far as anything more recent from the planning board, I don't know. I think the only way to find out is to ask them.
okay. I did tune into their meeting on the 23rd, and I definitely think it would be beneficial to maybe go back and represent an update to the bylaw, because, I think there were some pretty key concepts that were misunderstood about how a bylaw works, and how it interplays with the Wetlands Protection Act. So I think that might be beneficial to kind of circle back to each of these boards. But again, I would say,
I suggest we advance our own discussion further,
yeah,
drafting before we do that, and be in agreement on the concepts. Tonight, for example, Ethan circulated tonight some materials on related to the bylaw in terms of areas we'd expect to be protecting and his understanding of what we're protecting. I think we want to concur on all of those and then start making sure that the language we're drafting is actually reflecting that. So before we go back out to other boards or to the broader public, which we're also going to need to do, that'd be my suggestion, is let's get our own ducks in a row.
I was going to say, I was initially confused to receive that letter at that point, but I think I just assumed that it followed the planning board's kind of subsequent meeting, so it had more to do with their schedule that they're on. And I do think it is maybe like an overabundance of caution, because by then it had already been like a week and a half since we said that we weren't going to be going to fall meeting. But they may have, I assume they just wanted to kind of put their feelings in writing after their meeting on that date. So
I think you're right.
I do think, I guess the way I'm thinking about it is, we had a draft, right? I thought it was a very solid draft that, that we looked at other model bylaws and, was a good first effort to get sort of a reaction from the public, from other boards. And so we take that back, but I think there are key things that we need to maybe work into our website that's informational, you know, so to be able to say, hey, we took the comments, we're working on a few things, here's where we're at. I don't know if you guys are open, you know, to just some language edits on the bylaw website. Like, again, you know, things like proposed, maybe we should use the word draft, because what seems apparent is that people construe proposed, that word, in a particular way, like something's a done deal and it's ready to go to town meeting and we're not there. So as a first initiative, maybe we can clarify our language and just, you know, on our website, and, you know, call it draft wetlands bylaw. We've also been, you know, working on a new one, so saving out a current one, or actually more importantly, I think it's important to address the comments you know, publicly that we've received and say, oh, we got this comment, here's how we're addressing it. And I think it's important, I guess, you know, we'll go through the ducks in the row, but some of the basic stuff. So, you know, just working on basic messaging, like making sure we're in agreement what exemptions look like, you know, like for existing homeowners that already have existing footprints and land use, and being able to at least communicate that while we're fine tuning some of the regulations and things. That's my thought.
Okay. I don't disagree that it makes sense to be public about how we addressed and responded to comments that we've received. I think that makes a lot of sense. Be clear about what changes we're making in the bylaw. I think the question of exemptions is something we took to heart based on conversations with a variety of folks, and I think it, you know, we've gotten to a point in our discussions where I think we're pretty comfortable with the exemptions we've decided to incorporate. So makes sense. I guess the question is, do we do an ongoing sort of responsiveness summary, or do we issue a responsiveness summary when we're coming forward with another with a draft that we think is ready for another round of comments, and rather than sort of rolling, you know, with multiple edits, let's just get things together and move it along.
Okay. Well, we could work through that, I guess, at the later part of the meeting. I think the only other thing I'll add is I saw that the 10/28 meeting was canceled, which I think is good because it's a public hearing held by the planning board for the zoning recodification. So I think we should encourage people to go to that. But that might also be an opportunity, you know, to abandon our hearing, but just go back to the planning board and say, hey, here's, you got these letters. We just want to give you an update of the things we're working through. So that's another possibility, is to see if we can make a brief appearance and just update them, because clearly they were concerned about some of the things they were hearing. And that's it.
Wait, do you mean, Eleanor, presenting or attending, getting on their agenda on the 28th?
Yeah, maybe getting on their agenda at the end and just say, hey, we're just giving a quick update of where we're at. You know, 5-10 minutes. We're working through this. We're working with Bill. We'll keep you posted. Here's some things that came up, and you know, we can address this quickly. That type of thing. High level.
Yeah, I think it has to be high level because, I mean, I think we have an outline of the exemptions we want, but I think we are still reviewing the kind of the details of what they look like.
Yeah, I think it may be, unless we want to keep going back and back, I'd as I said earlier, I think I'd favor just holding things. I mean, it's clear, I think, to everyone, including the planning board, that we aren't planning to go to town meeting this fall. As far as their comments, we will be taking their comments and trying to incorporate them. I don't know, is there a way to have a more informal discussion with either members of the planning board or staff, planning staff, to get a sense of temperature and also to let them know where we're going? Because I'm not sure we need to go back and do a formal presentation, right?
Oh, no.
Until we're at a point of being clear on the edits we're making.
So, Bill had suggested an update to, in the form of a letter to town council, just kind of
Mhm.
essentially saying that we're looking at spring. I think he was gonna work with Ethan on drafting something. That might be something that could be written to town council, CC to planning board, and kind of kill two birds with one stone,
That's
perhaps.
a good thought.
I don't remember Bill saying he would work on that one. That might be something more that we would do ourselves, but I can do that definitely.
Yeah, that would be great.
You could circulate a draft to us. I think that would be helpful, Ethan.
Yep.
Thanks.
And then I'll talk to planning staff just to make sure we're on the same page.
Okay. Since you
Um,
sit with some of them, I think that might actually be relatively easy.
and I did want to flag, I opened up that letter again from planning board from October 9th. And they did say at the end that they would like us to review comments from town engineering, Department of Public Works, and zoning board of appeals, which ZBA, I don't think we've discussed before. I know I think someone from ZBA attended a meeting as an individual, if I remember right, and gave a comment, but we haven't really been talking with ZBA, so that's new.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen anything formally from ZBA.
No. I mean, I did talk to a attorney who served on a conservation commission for many years, and she thought it was a little unusual that we were getting so many public letters like this, rather than having people just come and work with us to incorporate comments that, typically, the focus is trying to work on a plan that will be work for voters, and then just take specific, we haven't really gotten specific comments,
No.
in my opinion. It's more like worries. So,
Well, and
those
I
are-
think it makes sense for us to look at the worries that have been expressed and make sure we've dealt
Yeah.
with them in one way or another.
Mhm.
But you're right, they haven't been specific language suggestions. And perhaps we finished another round of edits, it's time to put some language in front of our fellow boards and ask them for suggestions, and the same to DPW and to Bill Renault.
Right. And then I guess my final little request would be, if we have changes to an agenda or we cancel a meeting, if someone who's doing that canceling or that change could just communicate to the whole group, that they did it or why, because I guess I would expect to know as vice chair. There's often a very good reason, but sometimes I can't tell, oh, is this a mistake or was this intentional? So I think just in terms of communicating internally, that would be very helpful,
That makes sense.
And I think that's what I have on that topic for now. We can turn it back to the hearings.
Okay. The next hearing is DEP 313654. Michael and Grace Nigro at 11 Beech Tree Circle. Notice of intent. I think I saw the Nigros join earlier, although I don't think I see them now. Oh, there they are, yeah. Are they speaking or is someone else speaking on their behalf?
It's John Ogren from Hayes Engineering. I'm representing the Nigros.
Okay.
So just to kind of update, this is our second hearing on this notice of intent. It was essentially to place some fill in the back of the rear of the property, add a deck, repair a walkway. We had a site walk with the commission a week ago Saturday. And really one of the points that kind of got brought up while we were out there was, potentially showing some plantings along the proposed slope. Where we go from the fill to meeting the existing grade. So we had submitted a revised plan. If I can share my screen, I'll just very briefly show it.
Sure. I can see the plan, although that's good. The zoom is helpful.
So again, just to refresh the commission's memory, we are showing kind of flattening out the rear yard, adding some fill in the back and then sloping it down. There's an existing fence. We're relocating that to basically the bottom of the slope. And then proposing a deck and repairing steps and walkway. So what changed from the originally submitted plan was, as I said, there's some discussion about adding some shrubs to the new slope that we're creating. So we're showing here a total of 5 shrubs.
Okay.
Which we added along that slope, and then we added a list of pretty extensive list of plants that can essentially be picked from, any combination of those to be used along that slope. And I think that's essentially the changes to the plan. And I think that's the majority of, there was a lot of discussion out there, but I think that was my takeaway.
Right. And there's one tree removal involved here, and that's that twin tree that we saw.
Correct. Yeah, there's one tree that's, sorry, I probably should have left that up.
I saw it noted on there, on the drawing.
Yeah, that hasn't changed.
Okay. Questions from the commissioners or comments?
I think, doing the site walk, the only part that was, I was struggling to see was just making sure that the grading was far enough away from the other existing trees. I think it would be, I don't, we didn't have like the buffer area staked out, I don't think. We just had the wetland flags, so. I think those are gonna get,
Yeah, we didn't stake out the bottom of the slope, but essentially the bottom of the slope was stops just before quite a few of the trees that we saw, beyond that one tree that's being removed.
Okay.
As I said, that, you know, the deepest fill that we're talking is about 2.5 feet, so anything else would be less than that. And that's not in the air, you know, that's not there right at the edge of the trees.
So the trees themselves would not be buried any deeper. So you wouldn't be doing damage to their root systems, presumably.
Correct. We're filling, the fill is gonna be on one side of those trees, but it's not proposed to be around the trees. The proposed slope stops before it gets to the trees.
Okay.
John, do you have, could you say whether the fill would extend under like kind of the canopy? Which would be sort of approximate like the root system? The size of the canopy would approximate the root system, so will it, do you know if it'll come kind of under the canopy or close enough that it would be within the canopy?
Yeah, I would say some of the, I'll bring the plan back up. So yeah, you know, we didn't actually get the tree spread, but this is kind of typical for those size trees. What the canopy would be, and some of the fill would be under that canopy. But like I said, and, you know, in this area here, it's maybe a foot, and then it goes down to less as you get towards the trunk of the tree.
Okay, I'm trying to, can you tell me what, so there's a series of parallel lines. I'm trying to figure out what the closest parallel line to the house is. What is that?
These dash lines,
Yeah,
yeah, those are the proposed contours.
okay.
So the lighter dashed are the existing. So just to kind of get reference, this is, the lighter one is 173 here,
Mm-hmm,
and we're showing a 175 here.
mm-hmm, okay.
And it will slope down in the next, how many feet down to 173?
Yeah, it goes from 175 to 173.
And how, what's the horizontal distance that covers?
The slope,
Yeah,
essentially 6 feet. Like I
6
said,
feet.
it's a 3-to-1 slope, so it's basically
3 to 1.
6 feet.
Okay, okay. And I presume that's gonna be planted with, seeded with something to stabilize it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, we did add a note. It says newly graded yard areas to be loamed and seeded with grass seed.
Okay,
The new slope edge to additionally have biodegradable netting over the seed.
okay. So
And
keep,
then obviously
keep it in
the
place.
shrubs.
Do you expect this will get done this fall? I think the conversation with the Nigros while we were out there was probably not, won't be until they finish a bunch of interior work, because they had acquired this house pretty recently.
Yeah, this is not something that they're looking to do this fall.
Okay. Probably just as well, given it's gonna be challenging to get any kind of planting established between now and the end of growing season. Okay.
Can you install that, the fill, like I'm thinking about that area that falls under the tree canopy where it would likely be over the roots. Can you install that without kind of, compacting with heavy equipment in that last little bit of the slope?
Yeah, I don't know why they would, you know, like I said, the fill that we're putting in is, kind of under the canopy is a foot or less, and you wouldn't necessarily compact that.
Mhm.
And there'd be no reason to get heavy machinery, or, any machinery down in there.
Yeah, okay, so you don't have to like drive a heavy like machinery over it as part of the installation of that.
Yeah, I don't see that would happen.
Yeah. I think that would be, good if that doesn't happen because of, the potential damage to the tree from compacting the soil over the roots, where it would be the tree would have difficulty getting oxygen from the soil if it were compacted in that area.
Yeah, all the work would be, done from up gradient.
Mhm.
Yeah, I guess to your point, Jennifer, are you thinking you want to keep it to 6 inches or something within the canopy so it doesn't interfere with that exchange of oxygen? I think that's.
Yeah, I was mostly thinking about compaction because I'm not sure about like how the depth would affect. But yeah, that's my concern is that is the work over the roots gonna ultimately kill those trees?
Judy, the commission doesn't have any guidance on that, right? On how,
No,
much, okay.
Our only authority here is essentially around the fact that we're dealing with trees in the buffer.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, maybe just for reference, I don't know, I tried to point this out when we were out there, like the pine tree that's here.
Mhm.
Um, which is kind of typical. It's a little bit, the earth around that tree is a little bit higher. And we got the elevation that we got at that tree at the actual
At the
tree
base of the
trunk
tree.
was 172.3. So it would be, we're talking about filling 3 to 4 inches probably in the area, majority of that area.
That's helpful, John.
The 173 line is the line on the other side of the fence, on the inside of the fence, the side of the fence towards the house, if I'm looking at this, reading this drawing correctly.
The 172 is actually out here.
172 line is the one with the dots and dashes, right?
This dash dot.
Yeah. Am I correct about that?
That's the fence,
That's the
new
new
fence
fence.
location.
Okay.
Actually, I'm sorry, no, the one with the small circles is essentially the limit of work or the erosion control line.
Right. The one with the
And then the
X's
fence is about a foot inside of that.
right, and that's where the X's are. And then the next
Yes.
dashed line above that houseward from the fence line is the 173 line.
Correct.
Okay. So that would change about 6 inches in terms of soil depth in much of that area, looking at least the right-hand end. 6 to 8 inches of depth added.
So Paul, maybe it's something we want to think about adding to our tree policy moving forward, because just looking at the, like elaborating on it, just doing a little Google searches, they do say the general guideline is not to add, more than 3 inches, 2 to 3 inches of soil on top of the existing tree roots of a mature tree. Presumably that's close. I think we have to look at that more, but maybe we want to think about elaborating on our tree policy down the road and kind of putting some guidelines in place and look into this issue a little bit further, because I don't feel like a subject matter expert. I have seen examples where people put too much and you just, watch the tree die a slow death.
Right. And I'm not sure that the Nigros want to see that happen either.
Yeah.
Because those trees do offer some shading for that part of the yard.
We could add a condition here, just to ensure the trees survive through 1 or 2 growing seasons.
Well, it usually takes 5 to 7 years for them to,
Suffocate.
to suffocate.
I mean, I think that's essentially what happens. Excess soil deprives the roots of oxygen, and ultimately they die, they suffocate. So I think our preference would be to see the soil, my preference at least would be to see the soil line I'd suggest trimming it back just slightly just to avoid that problem, since it does seem, as Jennifer suggested, like the canopy line's a good surrogate there.
I don't know, in my experience, when you start to see that happen to trees, you're usually talking about feet of fill, 2, 3 and more. And the other thing to look at here too is we're talking, a portion of the canopy. We're not filling all the way around the tree or anything like that. It's pretty minimal.
I see your point on that, John. But there seems to be this line of pine trees there along the fence, that are just outside of the fence line, that are probably going to be the ones affected. You won't know if you've had an effect until it happens or doesn't.
Yeah, I'm also wondering how well, lawn and grass will do, under a pine tree,
They don't do very well under mine.
and it's a lot of, maintenance because of the, the needles falling. But I mean, I'm glad that it's a few inches and not, a foot, coming right up to the tree. Yeah, I think that would be good for the commission to look at, a little bit more in the future.
So we think we are willing to accept this as proposed.
I think we'd want to put in some conditions around the fill.
Okay,
You know, I think maybe specifying no more than whatever, a few inches under the
tree canopies.
tree canopy, and then the the invasive language that Elaine came up with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think not compacting with heavy equipment under the tree canopy line.
Mm-hmm. I think we can incorporate those into the conditions.
Would that be workable with you, John? I mean, we'd hate to have you guys come back here to remove the trees that, 5-7 years later and have to deal with that.
You mean as far as those conditions?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can work around with that.
And how
And-
many inches were you looking for that first one?
In terms of incremental soil depth, what were you suggesting on?
I was gonna say 3 to 4 inches.
I'll say 4. How does that sound? Or 3?
It's fine. I mean, I think we need to research it, incorporate it into our policy.
Going forward.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot that says 3 inches on a couple of these sites.
Anything further for the discussion?
No, I'm fine with all the other, the deck, the stonework, all those, yeah. It's
Yeah, I
just,
think the rest of the proposal, of all the work back by the house is fine.
right, it's just the grading that has all the, the risk.
Mhm.
Although John's gonna do such a good job, we won't have any concerns.
We'll leave it in your capable hands, John. But I think we do want to add those conditions as we've discussed, Ethan, in the course of writing an order. So we will need a motion first to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Second, Jennifer,
I'll second it.
thank you. All in favor, Eleanor,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
and I vote in favor as well. The hearing is closed, and at this point we'll be asking for a motion to issue order with conditions as we've discussed. We'll ask Ethan to formulate those into that order for us.
Can we have Ethan read back the conditions to us?
Sure.
Yeah.
No more than 4 inches of fill below tree canopies and no compacting soil under the tree canopies. And then the invasive one we mentioned.
Mhm.
Yeah, the invasive language that we've been working on here. Okay,
And the pesticide one is a standard condition, right? Like the fertilizer, pesticide, that type of stuff.
I believe that's the case, yes.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to approve the order of conditions for 11 Beech Tree Circle with special conditions. No more than 4 inches of fill under the tree canopy. No heavy equipment, and then the invasive species management condition.
Jennifer, you'll second that?
Second that.
Thank you. All in favor, Jennifer,
Yes.
Eleanor,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So I think, Ethan, if you can draft up something with all those conditions, we should be good to move on. Our next item.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Are you still on for the next item as well, or no?
I will be hanging around for that. Yes.
Okay, okay. Let's see. Yep, we're at 7:58. Our next one was at 7:50, so I guess we can move on. That's DEP 313652, Pack Self-Storage of Wakefield LLC, care of Chris Capizzoli, 50 Quantapond Parkway. And it's part of the continued public hearing. And I see both John and Brian McGrail, and I see Chris as well as on. So I will leave it up to the folks representing the project who speaks next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll take the lead on this if you don't mind.
Sure.
For the record, Attorney Brian McGrail, representing the applicant Pack Self-Storage. As you had mentioned, with me tonight is John Ogren from Hayes Engineering, also Chris Capizzoli and Chris Capizzoli Jr., the applicants and the property owner, Representative Mike Tamaro from Related Beal is here as well. I think, as you know, we retained Arthur Allen of Ecotech Inc. Art is a very qualified wetlands consultant to delineate the wetland boundary on the subject property at 50 Quantapond Parkway. We thought it would be best to do that where prior delineations had expired. And Mr. Allen was recommended by Peter Fletcher, who has significant experience on this site. When we contacted Peter, he retired. We asked him who he would recommend, and the first person was Arthur Allen. And as you know, Art was also approved by you, Mr. Chair, as a qualified person to look at this property. Art has extensive experience in this field, a number of years, as evidenced by his very impressive resume. Art spent a good amount of time on the property on his own, conducting his investigation and work on October 2nd. Ethan Fleming later in the day was also present with Art on behalf of the commission when Art expressed his findings on what he had determined at the property. And although his report speaks for itself in detail, I asked Art to attend the meeting tonight, so Art is online with us. In the event the commission has any questions that you want to ask him, I just thought it'd be appropriate for him to be here. I think, Art submitted, as I mentioned, a very detailed report with his findings. I have a plan I'd like to share on the screen, if I may.
Certainly.
And this is a plan that has been prepared by Hayes Engineering, and it's been confirmed as accurate by Art in his report. And the lighter line is, let's start down on North Ave down here. So let me shrink this down. So here's North Ave coming up Quantapond Parkway. So I think it's important to note that Art delineated the entire wetlands on the property. We have previously been focusing on the Fletcher line, which is up and around near our building. The lower level here from North Ave up to where our development will begin. This is the proposed park area down here. This had been delineated in the past by Libby Wallace of Hayes Engineering in Elaine of Vreeland, but it had not been looked at recently. So we said, as long as Art is going to be out there, let's get a full view of the entire wetland. Let's not just focus on the Fletcher line. Let's do everything. So these prior flags in the light color, the WF flags were what Elaine and Libby had come up with, and anything with an R is what Art has come up with on his inspection. So generally, you will see that the line has narrowed compared to where it was. So it's been brought a little bit further out. I think on average, it's about 7 feet. The majority of where it's been brought out is down in this area here. And I did a combination down here of soil and looked at some of the plants as well. And then as you come up here, it's pretty, the WF flags in the light dash is the Fletcher line. And then, as I mentioned, you've got art here on the R flags. So it comes out here. And this is the area of our project that the commissioner's focus is what, we call the pinch point. And it's
Mhm.
actually getting a little bit worse here, which we'll talk about as we go forward tonight. It's come out a little bit more. And then it's been brought back around here. So even though this has come in, it really doesn't have any major impact on our property. We will make some adjustments here, which I'll talk to you about as we go on this evening. So what we're requesting for the commission tonight is based on Art's work and report that you would confirm that you agree with this wetland delineation, so we can finalize our project layouts in plans accordingly. And with that said, Mr. Chair, if you have any questions for Art, he's here and happy to answer.
I noted when you sent us over the mapping, Brian, that the line was consistent in the eastern part of the property and tended to move further out in the western chunk of the lands. And I'm going to assume that, and I guess I'll ask this of Art, that eastern part of the property, you're dealing mainly with soil conditions since much of that is still mowed lawn. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yes, sir. Art Allen from Ecotech, current wetland and soil scientist for the project. I mean, I looked at soils throughout the site. I mean, it's all, as you're probably aware, it's all historic fill on this site. I mean, it appears in general the site has gotten slightly wetter. As noted in my report, I mean, it appears it could be a combination both of, long-term kind of settling of the fill and potentially just higher water tables in the area. So that some of the vegetation's creeping up, and the soils appear to remain fairly consistent, as evidenced by the fact that I only made one small adjustment to Peter Fletcher's line. But yeah, so the vegetation's, appears to be creeping up in parts of the site, but I looked at soils throughout the site to reach my conclusions and adjusted, the entire line as I saw fit.
When you're dealing with filled condition, like I presume the eastern part of the site has, are you seeing what typical wetland soils in that area where there's been fill? Has the fill been in place long enough to show the kinds of staining and marking that you'd get in a wetland soil?
Yes, the fill is developing features on this site. I mean, I think historically, probably a good portion of this property was wetland where the fill was placed, and and it's been in place long enough for, in those areas where the fill is low enough in elevation to get that water table coming up to within 12 inches of the surface, which is that hydrologic criteria that we use for wetland delineation. And I'm seeing, both on the wet side, I'm seeing both redoxymorphic concentrations and depletions, and I'm seeing darker topsoils that have developed over time since the fill's been in place. So yes, to answer your question, I am seeing, developed features within the fill that give me that indication of that break point between, more or less 12 inches of hydrology from the surface. And I had some soil profiles dug out, at the time of the site visit that I went over with Ethan and the rest of the folks there, and then I documented that in my DEP data forms associated with the report.
Okay. Other questions from commissioners?
So it sounded like, so, most of the changes are on the more western side of the property, but I think I heard that the delineation brings the wetland line closer to the parking lot than it already is. Did I hear that right?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, right in this, right in this area, Jennifer, see it?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Okay.
So we'll talk to you about an adjustment here that's gonna have to be made.
Okay. Yeah.
Because we were 3 feet there before, which the
Mhm.
commission wasn't too happy with to begin with.
Mhm.
And now it's right on it, which isn't gonna work. So,
Mhm. Yeah. So I have, I guess, kind of three comments, questions. Two are kind of a repeat. The last time we talked about it, I said my biggest concerns were about chemicals from the vehicles not having a way to get into the wetlands there. That's one. Second is, the potential for people throwing trash out there. And I think, to the extent that there's even less land between that edge of the parking lot and the wetland, if the more watery that area is, the less likely it is that someone's actually going to go in there and pull out, you know, things that people throw in there.
Mhm.
So that's on my mind, is keeping trash out of that area that people might discard there, and maybe that's just putting a trash can like right there. And then the third is a question, which is, if that area is becoming wetter and there is subsidence, over the next 10 years, how does that affect what's constructed there? Like, does that pose you know, um, a risk to the construction? Or I'm also thinking about, what happens to that wetland in that area if it continues to grow and it's coming up against that constructed wall there.
well, that didn't really move that much there. I mean, the major change was down in this area.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, all we can do with any project is determine what the wetland is at this point. I mean, that
And-
would apply to any project.
If I could opine,
Mhm.
Brian, through the chair, I did a number of soil samples, both above and below the delineated line. My main concern on a fill site like this would be, unsuitable materials that were buried out there, such as peat and organic materials. The only places I ran into any buried peat was on the wetland side of the wetland boundary. I mean, it seemed to be all, you know, gravelly fill on the upland side. And I believe John's confirmed that through extensive test pitting on this site too. So in terms of, kind of the structure of the fill, I didn't myself note anything like, peat or unsuitable material on the upland side. I only noted that on the wetland side. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Jennifer?
That's it.
Okay. Ellen?
I'm comfortable with the wetlands delineation, but Brian, if I might, I had a question for you. The line to the right of the building, that's dashed one coming down, yep, juts to the left. Yes, what is that?
It's a- John Ogren can address that. John, could you turn your camera on, John? You're on mute, John. John, you're on mute.
Which line are you asking about? Sorry.
I think this line, Eleanor, is that what you,
Yeah, it's like a hockey stick shape.
So we're basically talking about the dash line.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, the dash line, that's a an existing drain easement that runs kind of between the two properties. You can see the other side, on the other side of the property line, which is a solid, is all the other side of that easement, which is the dash line.
right here?
that's a drainage easement that drains into the wetlands to the up nearer to 128-95.
Correct.
So the drain run, is it just like an open ditch that runs down the middle or is that what was there?
Yeah, it's basically a drainage ditch that runs
Okay.
essentially near the property line.
Okay.
It's, I don't know if probably didn't really notice it other than, it's basically lawn, maintain mode ditch.
More of a swale actually than a ditch, if I.
Yeah, I remember it wasn't that.
Swale
noticeable.
ditch, yeah.
And is there like, I'm just curious, is there a setback? Like theoretically, could the building go right up to that line if, that dashed easement, or is there like a setback for that easement?
Yeah, there wouldn't be a setback from that easement. There'd be a restriction as far as building over that line though.
Mhm.
Whose drainage is that? Is that town drainage, John? Or is it the property owners?
That's a good question. I'm not quite sure who has the rights in there, whether it's the property owners, the two property owners in this area that have the ability to maintain that drainage swale.
The property owners.
It is, okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's a town because there's no, not like this Corner Power Parkway drains into that or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then does it continue out the bottom, I guess, like under the driveway, or what's the dash square line coming down, it kind of,
Down here,
yeah, so follow that down the dash line. Oh, I see, it goes straight.
Draining
down.
north, Eleanor,
Okay.
towards the wetlands.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or northwest, actually, I guess, looking at what is actually site north is really towards the upper right corner of this drawing.
okay, thank you.
Okay. So do we
so is the commission,
do we need a motion to accept this delineation?
well, this is part of our notice of intent. I think we just need to know that the commission is in line with this delineation and, moving forward, we should plan on this line. That's,
Yeah, I see that Sean Smith has raised his hand, so before we conclude on this, I'll allow Sean to ask to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sean Smith, RJ Kelly Company. Glad to be with you again this evening. I just had a couple quick questions. Obviously, RJ Kelly is happy to see Ecotech taking a look. They're a reputable company. And we have no problems with the line they've established. Obviously, it looks to be well thought through. I think my first question would be if any investigations were done within that drainage easement, given that during the rezoning application process, I believe there was a swale shown through there. I don't know if any of, or not a swale, a stream. So I'm wondering if any investigations were done through that portion, given that we do know we have hydric soils, and that likely inundates with water on a frequent basis as a swale.
Would you like me to take this?
yeah, please do, yep.
Yeah, again, Art Allen from Ecotech. You can see up in that north corner where my wetland line goes up to 0.5 R, kind of points up into the swale.
Right,
Right.
right here,
No, there.
Yep,
right here.
right there.
Yeah.
And so again, I brought the line up into that swale to the extent of hydric soils. Again, that's, it's a closely mowed lawn area, so there really isn't any definitive vegetation in there, but I brought the line up to the point where the hydric soil runs up into that swale. Above that flag 0.5 R, it's just a shallow grass swale. That swale leads up to a culvert outlet, which drains out of a small detention basin up at the upper end of the swale. There's a culvert under a driveway and then a small detention basin that feeds that swale. It's my understanding that system, that detention basin and the swale was created when the adjacent building was constructed um, sometime in 1998, and based on the discussions we had on the site during the site visit, it's also my understanding that whole system was created under an order of conditions. So that would make that detention basin, the culvert, and the upper part of that swale not regulated as a wetland because it was built post 1996 under an order of conditions. So basically, I just extended my wetland based on hydric soils up that swale to the point where the hydric soils ran out, and I considered the rest of that swale to be part of that non-jurisdictional drainage system.
Okay, thank you. So if I can summarize, there's a possibility it has wetland features. However, those wetland features would be non-jurisdictional on the basis of it being developed under an order conditions. Is that correct? Through the chair, of course.
Right, and through the chair, my answer would be the features would be associated with that vegetated detention basin up at the upper end. If that vegetated detention basin was to be a wetland, then the swale, the culvert and the swale leading out of that would be part of a regulated stream. But where that detention basin was created post 96 under an order of conditions, then none of that would be considered part of the wetland until it reached the point where it actually picked up vegetated wetland and hydric soils.
In other words, upward,
Okay.
you marked it with your delineation.
Correct. Yep. 0.5 R would be the furthest extent. Yes.
And just as a short follow-up, so there was no need to perform any sort of stream study in this area then as well. Is that correct?
Yes, again, it would be a stream if that vegetated basin was a wetland that fed into it, but again, because it's part of the drainage system, I did not consider it to be a stream.
And so it takes on the features of a stream and potentially features of a wetland. However, it's non-jurisdictional and therefore would not qualify under the Wetlands Protection Act.
Correct, based on my understanding. I have not seen the actual documentation. I have this anecdotally from what was discussed on the site visit, I believe, with the town engineer, and Ethan was there also as part of that discussion, I believe.
Okay, thank you. As a second question, I guess this is not an official ANRAD filing. Is that correct? We're just pursuing this all under one notice of intent.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And I guess, Brian, you've asked for our comfort on the delineation. I think I'm satisfied based on the questions I've asked and also heard asked and answered. With the delineation as it lays out here, updated. And I guess I'll ask Jennifer and Eleanor if they have any differing opinions on that.
I'm comfortable with the delineation.
Yeah, I am as well, and yeah, appreciated seeing the delineation forms as well.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So now that you agree with our wetlands delineation line, we'd like to just have a general discussion on likely revisions to our project plan based on this line. We'll be making alterations to the project plans to account for the tighter wetland line at the pinch point, I guess we all call it in this area, with a newly delineated wetland. And we believe, looking at it, that we'll be able to actually be able to get approximately 8 feet away from the new wetland line. Before we were 3 feet away from what was supposedly the wetland line. So now we have a wetland line. We won't just adjust to 3 feet. We plan on adjusting to approximately 8 feet to give some breathing room in that area. In alignment with our discussions and agreement with the commission, I want to restate that we're dedicated to delivering meaningful ecological enhancements that will result in a clear benefit to the surrounding wetland environment. So to that end, in addition to the vast open space that we're going to preserve in perpetuity in this area, that will provide in perpetuity, in conjunction with the commission, we're going to be proposing a buffer zone and wetland planting plan that will enhance native non-invasive species, specifically selected to support the health and reliance of the buffer zone and the wetland area. So what will have to be discussed is what we're going to do back in this area, what we're going to do in this area in our 8 feet, and in other areas to enhance these and with wetland plantings. And we plan on working with Art and Ecotech in that regard to get some recommendations. We plan on working with your commission in that regard and have a back and forth discussion. We'll provide ideas and obviously get your input. But that is the direction that we want to continue to go. We believe that these plantings will improve the quality, habitat quality. It will improve, it will stabilize the soils. It will help filter runoff before it gets into the wetland area, and it will make the buffer zone more robust. We'll also be discussing an operation and maintenance plan to address the concerns of Jennifer, to make sure that there's maintenance and no trash, and make sure that there's provisions taken for no snow, all the stuff that we know the commission is concerned with. So that this will be an ongoing process working with your commission as these plans evolve and develop.
And I assume that also invasives management will be part of that O&M plan.
It will. And Art, can you talk about some of the invasives maybe that you saw out there? Your thoughts on those?
Sure, through the chair. A significant amount of Phragmites, especially up in that north corner at the lower part of the swale. There's a significant stand of Phragmites. There's some patches of Phragmites mixed in, kind of in the central area. I also noted
right along near the parking lot, as I recall.
Yeah. I noted some glossy buckthorn out there. I have several species noted in my in my my notes. I'd have to go
I
back to
think
them,
when we
but
did our site walk, we had some purple loosestrife and bloom as well.
yeah, there was some out there. It had gone by at the time, but I could see some. So yeah, there's certainly some room for improvement there, in addition to the plantings that Brian mentioned, that we can come up with a good list of suitable native woody species to plant, to reclaim some of those existing lawn areas and adjacent lawn buffers.
And deal with the invasive species at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Right, and just to call out the tree of heaven that's out there, but more on the western side. But yeah, I think that would be fantastic if those were remediated.
Mm.
And that obviously, you know, is an addition to the plantings that we're going to be doing in the open space area.
Okay, so this will be, those plantings you discussed, Brian, will be up in the more northerly part of the site.
They're going to be up in this area.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
in
we
that
haven't
area
submitted
there.
anything on that. Our landscape plan to date is really focused on down in this area.
Okay. So I guess the next step will be for you to make revisions to the plans, both in terms of the building and parking, as well as plans for the plantings.
Correct.
Okay.
Can I just ask a question on that? So, Brian, I know I asked this before, but I'm gonna push you on it again. For the current design, like if the whole footprint just shifted up sort of north and east a little bit, you would get closer to the Fletcher wetland soil line, but you'd be impacting lawn, you know what I mean? You'd be closer to lawn versus existing vegetation. Is that not feasible at all?
We're going to be doing some shifting here, so I don't know exactly how that's going to take place.
Okay.
There is going to be some shifting that's going to take place here.
Okay.
So we're going to look at all of that, Eleanor.
Okay. I mean, I don't know about the other commissioners. I don't feel as strongly about losing lawn, existing lawn versus, potentially impacting, vegetation that's there, but that's just my perspective.
I'm inclined to agree with you there, Eleanor. Lawns, well, my own attitude toward lawns is they're a necessity where you don't want to try to maintain other plantings. But if you can do other plantings that make them a more interesting place for people and wildlife, I'd rather do that. But it sounds like if they're pulling their parking area about 8 feet off of that wetland line, everything is going to be shifting
Okay.
to the right,
Okay.
probably up a bit in order to make that accommodation. So I'll be interested to see the modifications and the planting plans as you come back, Brian.
Great.
Brian, we haven't received a stormwater plan yet, right? So,
John?
A stormwater management plan was submitted as part of the notice of intent. But we will have, based on comments from the DEP, and obviously they were shifting some things around, that's gonna have to be modified.
So it sounds like we'll be seeing things in a new format. How soon do you expect to be presenting this back to us, Brian?
That's a good question. We're scheduled to be back at the zoning board. As you know, we're shuffling between both boards. So we continue with the zoning board because we really needed to get a confirmation of this wetland line before we can continue with them. So we're scheduled to be back with them on November 12th. What's your next meeting?
We meet was it the 4th of November, I think? Am I correct about that date? Let me grab a calendar so I can confirm.
it's November 2nd.
No, Tuesday the 4th.
Oh, you're right. I'm so sorry.
Tuesday, November 4th is our first meeting in November. Our second meeting will be 2 weeks later on the 18th.
Yeah, so we would request to go to the 4th, and if we're not ready, we'll let you know. And we would just continue it, take it off the agenda.
Okay, then I guess we'll continue this to the November 4th meeting, and you can notify us if you want to further continuation.
That would be great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And
The 4th, sorry, an election day.
I believe it is.
Yeah,
Is-
so that won't work, right?
Is there a town election that day?
There isn't.
It's like,
I didn't think we had any.
oh, it's not like a state election or anything
No,
like
it's not a state election. It's an odd year. So there's no
Okay,
state
perfect,
elections or federal elections, and we have no town elections. So
we're good. Okay.
unless Brian's working the polls in one of the other towns he
No.
works in.
Okay.
But it is my birthday, so
Oh, well, maybe you want to continue.
I'll be here.
All right. Well, we'll continue to the 4th of November then, and you can let us know if you want to continue further.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time tonight.
Thanks, Brian.
We've dealt with administrative matters, salt storage. We're back to the wetland bylaw discussion. It's 8:30 now. How long do we want to continue?
I guess I did want to say I have sort of 2 questions, comments for the administrative section. I don't think they're long.
Okay.
Do you want to do that right now?
Yeah,
Or-
let's do that first, and then we'll go to the
Okay.
wetland bylaw. I think Ethan gave us a useful summary of some of the issues on the wetland bylaw, so we'll work off that once we get there. But go ahead, Jennifer.
First thing, a question about, for orders of conditions that include, perpetual conditions like use of pesticides. How are those usually conveyed to the homeowner? Is that something like Ethan that you as the agent explain to them so it's not just a piece of paper that they might or might not read, but that's my question.
It's typically just explained to them through the process of issuing the order when they discuss it with the commission. And then as we determine the setbacks, that's when we bring up each one and how it might apply. So if we're saying invasives versus stockpiling soils versus snow storage, they tend to have that identified before they receive the permit.
Mhm.
But like in this example, that's the applicant's not here, right? And we're not going to walk them through. You're going to draft the order of conditions. Are you going to bring it back to us to approve and walk through with the applicant?
I don't think it really requires walking through. I think with the permit, we sort of walk through that at the pre-construction meeting, just on making sure they understand all the conditions. But there's really only, when it comes down to it, a couple of conditions relevant depending on the project.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a good time to do it. The pre-construction meeting, as long as, I feel better about that happening again for some of those perpetual conditions where it really depends on their understanding of, what's in there because, it's easy for me to imagine that somebody, would get their, kind of approval. They're working with a professional and sort of not realize that they have ongoing, kind of responsibilities after the project's done.
I think
Yeah, we always review it at the pre-construction meeting at the latest. So,
Okay.
Are the homeowners typically at the pre-construction meeting?
yeah, from my experience, yeah.
And I'm guessing, Jennifer, your concern is more related to homeowners like we saw earlier in the meeting, for example, and not so much a sophisticated owner like the 50 Quantified Parkway ownership
Yeah,
development.
right. But who's gonna have professionals maintaining,
Right. They're gonna have
Right.
professionals advising them, professionals maintaining. I don't think we need to explain a lot to them.
Yeah, I was thinking more like the beech tree owners who,
Right, exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
And I think that makes sense that there's a discussion at the pre-construction meeting so that they're they're clear on the, on an understanding as they're going into building.
Okay. And then my second question, which we don't need to spend time on today, but is about this was a thought that I had at the beech tree site visit, which is, you know, they're going to be installing a lawn, and lawns I think vary in terms of how much kind of chemicals they need to be sort of kept in good condition. I know that the commission sometimes has conditions like, you know, install kind of native grasses, and I assume those require less chemicals. But I'm just wondering if the commission has sort of standard procedures or makes recommendations about, and how often, about lawns and different types in terms of the chemical burden that's associated with them.
I have never seen anything specific. Do we have anything, Ethan, that I'm not aware of?
I don't think so, no.
I thought it says you can't use it within 25 feet of the wetland. In the
Can't
state.
use fertilizers or pesticides?
Yeah, do we want to, Ethan, can you pull up the standard order?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, the use of fertilizers would apply based on the order of conditions.
Okay. I don't think I noticed that. I saw pesticides, but
Number 47.
okay, great.
Yep.
Fertilizers. Okay.
Even honestly, slow release granular fertilizer isn't great.
Well, no, we can say prohibition within 25 or 50 feet of a wetland resource area.
Mhm,
And then the balance of the buffer
mhm.
we allow, something like that. So for that
Okay.
example, for this lawn, they would have, we would want them to stay outside. I would assume we'd want them to stay outside the 25-foot boundary, which on the case of the beech tree site
Right.
would mean that they'd be staying on only the new lawn area.
That's actually a good point. We didn't discuss the setbacks.
I think there's nothing to prevent us from going back to that at this point, is there?
Yeah. I'll look at the plan and see roughly where the new lawn would be. I'd probably just go for 50 feet instead of 25 just to make sure it's all covered.
50 feet of no fertilizer, no pesticide?
Yep.
Okay, I would agree with that.
And then we'll go over that at the pre-construction meeting as well with the homeowners.
Given that this is a backyard, I don't think we have to worry about salt or plowed snow back.
No.
Number 50, is that Elaine's language?
Um,
Well, there's 50 and 51, Eleanor.
Oh,
let me see.
okay, there we go. Okay.
I think between them, we seem to be able to.
I think this one may have been an older one.
They seem a little redundant.
Yeah. I must have just left this one in there by mistake at number 50. It looks like sort of the first draft of what I discussed with Elaine.
Okay. We should probably just go with 51.
Yep.
I would see, okay, so long as we make sure we've got the perpetuity carefully laid out. You may want to include that sentence. This may include repeated cutting, etc.
I think, what's
would you
nice
rather-
about 51 is that they have to contact the Conservation Commission to determine the removal method.
So that you and Elaine can advise them, Ethan.
Yeah, I'll keep 51 in there. I hadn't noticed that 50 was still there.
Okay.
Do we ever post our standard order of conditions anywhere or no? Do other commissions do that?
No.
You could get a copy whenever you want one, though. I think I have an older version of my files electronically, but I don't think I have this one with the invasive conditions. No, it's older. Once you've made the update revisions, Ethan, could you just send it around to me?
Yeah, a blank version.
Blank version, yeah, just so I have one in my files.
I'd like it to, if you could maybe send it to all of us.
Yeah, send it to all three of us, please. I think it's useful for us to have it in order to be able to even pull it up when we're in these conversations.
And if you can date it too, so it makes it,
Yeah, at the top, probably a date, October 2025. It's a good idea. Thanks. Okay, I think we've done enough on this. Anything else? All right, wetland bylaw. Ethan, thank you for the notes for this.
Yep, that was sort of just a summary of our last meeting, and then any of the words that are identified in the jurisdiction section, I sort of pulled out the current definitions of those.
Under the WPA.
Yep.
Okay. It seems like you picked up what I was reading as our thrust in terms of jurisdiction. And the buffers, I think what we're talking about is the buffer, for example, on the bank or any wetland would be the full buffer would be 100 feet, and the no activities permitted zone would be the 25 feet.
we have to be careful about bank because technically, I think the bank of a river has a 200-foot buffer,
Right.
but of a wetland has a 100-foot buffer.
The bank itself from the river still has the same 100-foot buffer, but it does have the riverfront area that's 200 feet.
Mm.
So it's not really a buffer so much as a separate resource area.
The 200-foot area is that is riverfront area, and that's 200 feet from top of bank?
From the bank, I believe, yep.
From the bank, as it's defined in the WPA. Now, it's interesting that an isolated vegetated wetland, which is not connected to any river, stream, pond, or lake, we're only proposing a 25-foot buffer. Why not 100 feet there? Are these too small to justify that, or what's the thinking?
At least one consideration in that is so the work that gets done on like public utilities, streets, for example, and I think Bill had brought up that, DPW doesn't wouldn't want to have to submit like an NOI for every like kind of small wetland or pond within 100 feet of that work. So I think most houses are set back about 25 feet, give or take. So,
Mm.
Which means that you can also just kind of see it, like
Yeah.
in the front yard, if it's there, and it's probably not even. If it's going to be there, it's probably going to be in the backyard.
Right.
So that's kind of a practical consideration, and I think also. I mean, again, it kind of comes back to, an isolated vegetated wetland in contrast to a vernal pool habitat. I mean, I think clearly a vernal pool habitat needs that 100 feet of upland area. But if an isolated wetland is not a vernal pool, does its habitat need, 100 feet? And what resources are we trying to, or what interests are really most at play with an isolated vegetated wetland? There's some habitat, but not as much as a vernal pool. There's, flood prevention. Does that need 100 feet? I think water quality, I think those benefits start around 25 feet. Obviously 100 feet's better, but I think that was my thinking in terms of what are the interests of an isolated vegetated wetland versus a vernal pool.
Okay.
Can we go back to bank, to that comment on the buffer zone? Because I was at the deep dive circuit rider training. I shared the slides with you guys.
Right.
And she did make a point to mention, this is on page 7, under the statement of jurisdiction, that riverfront area does not have a buffer zone. I guess, I think, Ethan, maybe what you're referring to is what you call the inner,
Inner riparian.
yes, thank you, inner riparian. Is that what you're referring to?
The riverfront? No, the
Yeah.
riverfront doesn't have a buffer.
Okay, sorry, I thought earlier in this you said the riverfront had a 100-foot buffer, but I think,
The bank has the 100-foot buffer.
okay, so in riverfront, that would be the inner riparian, right?
Sort of. We don't use that too often. But the bank would still have that buffer to protect the bank, but then there's also the 200-foot riverfront from where the bank begins.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you.
So I think, are we in agreement on what Ethan's outlined here? In terms of our targets?
I'm good with it. Oh, wait. Go on, Jennifer.
Oh, I'm just gonna look again before I answer them. So are we in need of a definition for intermittent stream?
I believe so.
I see, yeah, in Ethan's list here, we have isolated vegetative wetland and intermittent stream without definitions attached. At the end of that,
There are some
meaning two outline.
there's some ways that it's defined, but there's no like precise definition just because it's not usually a separate jurisdictional piece. But I think what we had discussed was having it at its own category of jurisdiction. So that's where we could expand the definition to make sure we include everything that we want to include.
I was looking at the MAC website, and they had good language, I thought, for
IBW.
yeah, IVW. I thought I downloaded it. I sent you guys the link in case you hadn't seen it before. We talk about isolated wetlands. And I know they mentioned protecting intermittent streams, and they have the language about why it's important to do it. Oh, Jennifer, are you familiar? Have you seen it? It's like I was pretty sure it was like an Excel spreadsheet that Mac has.
With the definition?
Yeah, it has the definitions and why. Like it'll say justification and then the recommended language.
Mm-hmm.
I was pretty sure they had a Excel that sort of explained all the different resource areas. Let me see if I can.
Don't think I've seen that. Sudbury has a very good, basically like a preamble for intermittent streams. So, it sounds like we have a couple that we can look at there, Mac and Sudbury. And Sudbury has a definition too that's pretty general.
For intermittent stream.
Mm-hmm.
And you sent that already?
Yeah, I've sent that.
Oh, wait a second. I think I put it in.
I think I sent that on the 16th.
Okay. Here it is. Oh, I can't find it. It's called, here, do you want me to share my screen? It's called,
Go
unless
ahead.
you want me to find your, let's see. Do you want to pull up your Sudbury language?
Not on a device where I can share screen.
Okay.
I did find the spreadsheet that you were referring to, which is linked in your email.
Okay. Oh, I did do it. Okay. I pasted it in my spreadsheet. I can share my screen if you want. Sorry, I'm managing too many windows.
You may need to zoom that. No.
It's microscopic.
Yes, that's my challenge.
You know, it's funny. I don't know why it doesn't come through like a. Almost have. I wonder if I can download it. Anyway, It's a PDF, so it makes it hard to zoom. Let me see if I can, does that help?
Yeah, usually.
Okay, purpose. To jurisdiction.
Isolated wetlands.
Wetlands and intermittent streams. So I think this is sort of the magic formula. And the first column is the justification. Can you see that?
Okay, so you mean the second column.
Sorry, correct. The second column,
Second column is the justification,
right?
and
And then I believe, hang on, sorry. Sorry, it's the recommendation, justification, followed by
third regulatory language. All right, let's look at their regulatory language to see what they have for.
Okay, so this is the justification, which is handy. And then so it follows the kind of Wetland Protection Act, you know, that do not border on wetlands listed. And then B, intermittent streams that are up gradient of bordering vegetated wetlands.
Yeah.
C, ponds that meet any open body of fresh water, either naturally occurring or man-made by impoundment or excavation, which is neither without standing water due to natural causes, except in periods of extended drought. For purpose, you know, and then it defines extended drought.
Mm-hmm.
Basins or lagoons, which are part of wastewater treatment plants, swimming pools, or other impervious man-made retention basins shall not be considered ponds. So I would think we want to just lift this language, but maybe tweak down here. I don't know how many man-made ponds we have in Wakefield.
I have one in my backyard.
Oh, that's right. It's a koi pond.
Well, it has no koi.
Okay.
It has fish and it has various aquatic plants.
So obviously you don't want that regulated.
No, I'm not sure that 8 by 16 feet is worth the commission's time. Let's look at the language in the last column to the right for a minute.
Yeah, that one is second choice.
Second choice.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the impoundment could draw in, you know, like in that last example with 50 Quannapowitt, sort of that man-made drainage basin that they were talking about. That would be the concern, and I don't think we want to go there.
Man-made. You mean those drainage basins that are at the headwaters of that drainage swale?
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree. We don't want to start
Regulating man-made stuff like that.
No.
So this.
So basically, this one has an area component, and I think we deleted the aerial component. So we have IVW, wet meadows, marshes, swamps, and bogs.
And then, oh,
We
here's the,
started down this road actually thinking about language to deal with intermittent stream, and it almost feels like everybody assumes that the term intermittent is self-defining here.
Yeah, intermittent's effectively just a stream that's not perennial. That's how they tend to define it.
Okay.
So it's something that just doesn't meet the perennial qualifications.
And the perennial qualifications are a combination of continuing flow and a certain drainage basin.
I think so.
There's a few, yeah, a few qualifications.
Yeah, I mean, the one place I would, well, I will say this. We we have that stream that flows into Lake Quannapowitt at the northwest. It flows past those 3 multifamily housing developments that have been built.
Mhm.
Seems to me that in future, and it didn't qualify as a perennial stream on the basis of the size of its drainage basin.
Are we sure? I thought Bill later said they got exempted because it was a 40B.
Well, the last project got exempted because it was a 40B.
Okay.
Well, it got exempted from local bylaws, but it doesn't get exempted from state laws under 40B, Eleanor. 40B only
Yes.
gets you out of local.
Hmm.
The reason the developers did it was because they didn't get through town meeting with 2 single family houses.
Oh,
And it
I
was sort of,
guess.
nah,
Why were they allowed to build so close to the buffer? I thought that was the 40B exemption.
no. That was,
Talking about the setback, that's what was waived under the ZBA.
what was waived, Judy? I couldn't understand that.
The 50-foot stream setback.
That the ZBA has under its bylaw, right?
The bylaw, right,
Right, because we don't have a bylaw
correct.
at the moment, did not at that time, and I think also the commission at the time felt that it had allowed the other 2 projects to get built with rather minimal setbacks and didn't feel it had the ability to deny this 3rd one.
Well, the commission had asked, I think, for 25 feet, and the ZBA came back with a shorter setback.
The ZBA gave them less than 25 feet?
Yes, because I think there was an amenity they wanted back there. I forget what they were putting back there.
You know, we always take the rap for that.
Yeah, I don't know what amenities we got out of it because typically it's,
Yeah, but I mean, it was something for the apartment.
it
It was either
had
a,
a very elevated parking area behind one of the 2.
yeah,
The 2 that are complete. The 3rd one, they basically pushed their way in. And I think piggybacked on the what the other 2 got for approvals without really pushing too hard to get that, or having to push too hard to get that.
What property is that again? It's just the
It
north.
was the west side, North Avenue. I mean, it's 592, 598, 600, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Okay.
the horse is out of the barn on all of those. We can't do much of anything with them.
No, but it's a good
I think
example.
we need to look at what we're going to. I think we want to manage our language here so that we pick up firmly the 25-foot no development zone.
Yes.
Um,
And I think that kind of jives a little bit with what Bill was telling us, what they would kind of want to model with the stormwater standards. No. Anyway, sorry, back to this, the IVWs. This is North Andover, like example of how they define it. And it all, to me, it almost reads more like what you would put in the regulations. Like, this is how we're gonna define IVW, you know, 50.
yeah, the bullets below really look like regulation language more than,
Mhm.
I mean, the things above, if you stop before that last sentence or the last clause that starts with isolated vegetated wetlands must consist of the following.
Yeah.
I would just stop with the prior to that sentence.
Wait, why would you stop before the,
Well,
where would you stop?
I see what they're doing. I mean, they're actually laying down some fairly specific delineation parameters. And it would appear they want all three to show up. Wetland indicator plants, hydrology, and hydric soils. And if you miss one of those three, you don't have an IVW.
What is
Yeah, and-
what is a BVW required? Does it require how many of the three?
BVW?
Mhm.
BVW, I'm not sure.
I think it's like kind of a decision tree with the BVW. I'll look too.
Oh, do you want me to go down to definitions? Let's see. Oh, definitions here? Bordering vegetated wetlands. They just say, see U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
What about going to the left? Anything there? That's logic, that's reasons, not language.
This one, whenever possible, should be avoided during abnormally dry conditions.
Yeah, but that doesn't give you anything to define the BVW.
No, BVW delineation method should be met as follows. Again, I don't know why we would redefine this since it's already in the Wetlands Protection Act.
Right. I'm just thinking about what I like about the way that they, I mean, I like that they kind of lay out, vegetation, hydrology and soils. I'm sort of less sure about do all three need to be present, but what I like about that is that the people doing delineations will be very familiar with that from doing, and potentially they could even use the same form.
Right.
Or sort of like a very slightly modified version of that form. But what I'm not sure about is like requiring that all three be present.
Yeah, I think the only thing with that is then you sort of rope the homeowner into hiring a professional when they, you could probably go there and say like, yeah, that looks like a IVW. You know what I mean? Are you willing to stay outside 25 feet? Okay, well, we don't need you to go through all those steps. I mean, I think the other three are good.
So what is a way that like a IVW could be identified just kind of by sight?
You have a depression where water occurs naturally. You see vegetation around it. I mean, the part you're not going to see that's harder is the hydric soil, hydric soils. But you would say, as long as the homeowner's clearly going to be outside, working outside the 25-foot buffer to that, to the bank of that IVW, I think you wouldn't say, oh, you need to get that delineated.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about how this interacts with the vernal pool. I mean, I like that idea really of even potentially not even making a distinction between like an IVW and an ILSF. And just saying whichever one it is, it's going to have the same setback to it. And that I think also helps to get rid of the need for a delineation. But we are we are also talking about, or I think not really resolved on the question of how are vernal pools identified, because if we go with the presumption, then it will require, I think someone with some expertise to overcome that.
Do you have a strong feeling one way or the other? Because I guess the example Elaine laid out was without the presumption, but here are the factors that we would look at to determine whether it's, a vernal pool. We would, look to the criteria for how you certify it. And I don't think, when I looked through the certification, I didn't see a size requirement on that. But we can read that. Maybe I missed that somewhere else. It was more about the species and determine. So you could take that approach, or you could assume everything is a vernal pool. So yeah, are you feeling strongly?
Well, so if we weren't sure if something were a vernal pool versus an isolated vegetated wetland, we probably would want them to do, have that area assessed, right? So it's kind of like, it seems to me like we'd be asking them to have it assessed anyway.
Okay.
Either to like, assess it into the criterion or assess it out. I mean, do you think, I'm just trying to imagine if someone comes and says, well, I don't think there's fairy shrimp in there. I mean, how would like a lay person have any idea about that? Or even frogs.
What about the mapping approach? I'm just trying to give a couple like different options, like if it's on the map as, a likely vernal pool, like the map you sent us. That's good.
Seems like if it's on the map as a likely vernal pool, we want to treat it as such until the applicant provides us with sufficient evidence to the contrary. Isn't that the language that we're moving forward with here? The presumption is that if we think it's a vernal pool, the applicant has the burden of proof to show us that it's not. And we're not looking at MAC, we should look at our language here for that.
Oh, I just wanted to see the vernal pool. Oh. Yeah, let me go see what we have. But just hang on one second. I sent out a I'm not sharing it. Give me a second. I have to pull it up. Ethan, do you have it handy from the draft I sent by any chance?
I don't.
I have the very much marked up version of what you sent out, Eleanor. I can share that.
Okay. No, 1 second.
Somebody's gonna have to stop sharing in order for me to do that, though. Whoever is sharing.
I'm gonna stop. Do that.
All right. So this is what ours has. This was as of September 30th. This was the draft you circulated then, Eleanor.
Oh, but we looked at this on the 14th, like last Friday. I sent an updated draft. Didn't I, just before that? It was after the meeting of the 14th. I thought
Yeah, you did send that out.
here we go. Yeah, I sent it on the 14th. So we would have it for the Friday meeting here. I can,
Did you have it?
yeah, I do. Here, I'll
All
share.
right, then I'll stop sharing.
I mean, it's still. Sorry, I'm gonna download it again.
All right,
Give me 1 second. We're just looking at, I don't want to make edit. Oh, crap. I don't want to make edits to it. Give me a second. I just lost it. Hang on a second. Sorry, this new thing is very clunky.
I have it open if you want it.
Okay, I got it finally. Sorry. Let me know if we see it.
Yeah,
It's weird. I can't see what I'm presenting. I mean, I see it here, but so
you should have it at the top of your screen. It should tell you. to
sharing,
share.
yeah, which one I'm sharing. I'm gonna move this. So we are looking for vernal pool.
We discussed it in a couple places.
Yeah. Do you want me to go to definitions first?
Probably the best place, yes.
And I'm going to, just to make this easier to read, give me 1 second. Where's my review panel?
Vernal pool is number 7,
Mhm.
definitions list.
Just making it like this so it's easier to read. It's over here. Make this bigger.
Section
Pool
3,
6.
definitions, number 7 is what I have vernal pool under.
It's here. Can you see my
Oh,
screen?
it's now 6, okay.
Vernal pool. I just removed the markup so it'd be easier to read.
All right.
So we say here, regardless of whether, yeah.
Okay,
You know, I went back and looked at our definition on our posted bylaw, and it's actually pretty good. I think in the course of editing it in subsequent versions, we might have changed it a little bit, but I'm fine with this, or I think what we had on the posted bylaw. I don't know about you, Jennifer.
well, there's nothing that says we can't substitute this for the posted.
Yeah, I mean, I think we took out the threshold.
Took out the 1,000 square feet, yes.
Yeah, but there is another section on vernal pools later, and I actually
Yeah.
think so the MAC template and a lot of the bylaws do use a presumption, and that's where we started. And I think we still haven't really settled on, are we using a presumption where they have to prove that it's not? Otherwise, they're going to get regulated as a vernal pool, or do we?
I'm reading this as a presumption. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm reading this as a presumption because it says, and I'll let you read through it. this is a presumptive definition of the existence and extent of vernal pools, that virtually all basins that possess the above characteristics actually
Okay.
host vernal pool species.
Okay. Oh,
That sentence is clunky. We can look at the MAC.
yeah, and that is what Elaine was recommending, is a presumption language, because I guess I didn't necessarily think that was the case.
Maybe I misexplained it. She helped me rewrite this.
I think this makes sense as I mean, the language in the second sentence is a little stiff, but I think it works.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
we can go back and
I
there's a presumption. I think Elaine's point was you're only going to get one shot at this. If somebody comes to you the wrong time of the year and says it's not a vernal pool,
they're gonna have the burden of proving to us that it's not.
right? Whereas on the flip side, if you don't make it a presumption, then they can just say, oh, it's dry, there's no, like, there's nothing in there. I didn't see a frog this summer, it's not a vernal pool.
I mean, if you can get something that's a little,
Less clunky.
well, the use of the term presumptive definition is,
Yeah, I think it's clunky too.
it's clunky, but it's also not completely clear.
Yeah, it should just be, there
This
is a
definition
presumption.
presumes
Yeah.
that bodies of water identified as vernal pools are in fact vernal pools if they possess the characteristic outlined in, what paragraph is that above? I'm not even sure.
Oh, sorry.
We should identify that here.
This is where I think actually what we had posted on the website might be clear, like our original definition might be a little more
So we
clear.
should compare it then, yeah.
Give me 1 second, I'm trying to pull it up. Or if somebody else wants to pull it up. 1 second. I love I Google Town of Wakefield Conservation Commission in Linfield came up.
I have the proposed bylaw on my screen right now.
There it is. It's just hard to read. Why was the date changed?
What was it changed to?
Well, it says August 5th, but this is like goes back to March. So it's confusing. I don't know why that.
It may have been the last time it was posted, I don't know.
Does that get added automatically?
I have
Ethan?
no idea.
I don't know. I
Just
think
right
that
there.
that must have been the last version before we made edits to it.
No, we posted, I can send you the one we posted, but it had a March date on it. So I guess I'd like to be careful about dating our drafts, just like as a housekeeping item. Because then it looks like, I don't know, like we haven't been working on this for a long time and that we haven't shared this for months. Just as like a going forward thing,
The draft that is dated August 5th also uses the same language of, this is a presumptive definition of the existence and extent of vernal pools.
okay.
So
We can clean that language up.
well,
I mean,
let's
we-
not throw out the baby with the bathwater. I mean, if the language works for us and we don't find something that is better, clearer, I'd live with this.
And I think, so K is guidelines for determining if a ponding area is a vernal pool habitat. And I think this is why I thought that we were kind of saying two different things, because I think that was initially, K was initially that it's not a vernal pool habitat. And that means the assessment is, it's just framing it a little bit differently. So I think I would change that back to guidelines for determining a ponding area is not a vernal pool habitat. And then it just refers to the same guidelines, DFW.
You would change that back, okay. Oh, it's funny, at that last meeting, I did pull up, well, I did pull up the draft. I didn't remember seeing that date on it.
So what are we doing here?
So we're gonna revert back to the original and we are agreed there's a
Read
presumption.
the language that's on the website.
It sounds like that's what Jennifer wants to do.
That's the posted language. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think I'm okay with the presumption.
The posted language has the same presumption. And the way it's stated is vernal pools, it says presumption of vernal pool habitats. Vernal pools are protected as a resource under this bylaw. Vernal pool habitat exists if a body of water's physical characteristics conforms to those defined for vernal pools in the definition section. This is a presumptive definition of the existence and extent of vernal pools that virtually all basins that possess the above characteristics actually host breeding vernal pool species. And then it says the presumption may be overcome with credible evidence that which in the judgment of condition of the commission demonstrates the body of water cannot or does not provide. Does not or cannot provide vernal pool habitat functions.
Am I
So
my screen or the original document?
that's the document that's on the town website right now.
Okay, you can see that. Okay, good.
So, I mean, I think it looks, I would say the language is pretty clear. It also provides us with the same kind of presumption.
And do you want to keep this demonstrating that a ponding area is not a vernal pool, Jennifer?
Yeah.
You mean the guidelines for determining?
So, yeah, we changed it. Let's see.
Yeah, this is guidelines. If someone wants to try to overcome the presumption, how would they do that? What are the criteria then?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so we'll do just the guidelines. As opposed, you like this, or are you saying you want to go back to this?
I'm fine with there being a presumption and then keeping this K in there.
Okay,
To explain how, if someone's going to try to overcome the presumption, how do they do that?
yes, Elaine thought these were too hard
Detailed
to, like, the three
demonstration
values. Yeah.
on the town conservation commission site right now.
This is what's on the Town Conservation Commission site.
Not what I just opened from.
Oh, sorry. I meant to say, Paul, the presumption of vernal pool, is habitat is on the version on the website.
There is a presumption language, but it's much more detailed in terms of how you prove that.
Yes. And we're saying that we should, oh God. Hang on a second.
There's,
Okay, this is, I have too many windows open and a bad mouse. So this is just the guidelines. This is what we were deciding to go with K versus, there's a K and L, but we could just make it all one paragraph.
I think the only reason we made it into 2 paragraphs was because of this language in K that we want to reference below,
Okay.
but doesn't have to be.
This for the
Get rid of
purpose.
that paren and period there at the beginning. Those.
So get rid of the L and it would just be K.
It probably would be if you do that.
Mm-hmm. Will it let me without messing things up? There.
And then in the parenthetic in the next line, Eleanor, as defined in this paragraph K.
Oh. Actually, we don't even need to say it. Oh, it's right, because it's already defined, right?
As defined herein.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'll revert to the original for the beginning,
Okay.
and then we're good. This.
That's fine.
So sorry, Jennifer, you want me to say presumption of vernal pool habitat or just vernal pool habitat?
I don't have a strong preference. I think most of the bylaws call it a presumption of a vernal pool habitat.
I think actually this is pretty consistent. Okay.
We had what is on the town site right now
Mm-hmm.
is presumption of vernal pool habitat. I'm not sure I care a lot.
Okay. And I just want to make sure.
You can just leave it as vernal pool habitat because we go into the question of presumption. But I would suggest you go back and read H and I in that document because it's much more detailed than what we have here. And I don't think it's problematic for us. So consider
This-
whether.
Yeah, Elaine thought I was problematic because of 1 and 2. They were hard to prove.
You mean the demonstrating that a ponding area is not a vernal pool?
Correct.
That it's difficult to show under that
The term.
ponding area does not hold water for at least 2 continued. That's a hard negative to prove. And the 3 consecutive years of average rainfall, yeah. Most developers aren't going to want to wait 3 years to prove
Yes,
something like
yes.
that to us. So, okay, I understand. Okay, let's not try to use those.
Yeah.
She's right.
Let me see. I'm gonna stop sharing.
Okay.
So should we go back to Ethan's list? Or,
Yeah, but I have a hard stop at 10.
oh, actually, it's late. Yeah, we should definitely. So we're settled on vernal pool. Do we need to go back to intermittent stream and?
We don't have language in the definitions for either isolated vegetative wetland or intermittent stream. We have all the others, and
Ethan, were you gonna give us language or?
Probably for the next Friday meeting, I could put
Can
together
you-
some language.
Can you do it sooner so we can digest it and research it?
Sure.
Cause it just helps, I think.
okay. When's our next Friday meeting? This Friday?
No, the 20.
We
No,
canceled, the 28th was canceled.
that was a Tuesday. It's not this Friday. It's
The
Following.
31st.
The
the
31st?
31st.
Okay.
So, who canceled the meeting? Like, should we send an announcement and just say, we've canceled this meeting, we'd like you to attend, we're gonna.
Well, Sherry's already sent out the announcement of the cancellation, right?
Okay. Did you ask for it to be canceled?
No, I'm not sure why it got canceled.
We talked about that on Friday, Paul. Because we had like a few meetings in a short span.
Oh, I remember
I-
that conversation. Yeah, I didn't realize.
A decision, yeah, we just gotta, Ethan.
We
make
do
it-
have a lot crammed in right now.
Yeah.
And
It's fine. It would just be helpful to send like a email that you're doing that or something, Hey, as discussed, can we, are you guys good with canceling it, or I'm gonna cancel as discussed, just so we know, kind of what's going on.
Mhm.
That'd be great. Jennifer, anything else on
I am in favor of wrapping up based on the time, but maybe between now and the next meeting, thinking through, I mean, I agree that we don't want to have unnecessary delineations. But if we're presuming something's a vernal pool habitat, I think that would have to be delineated. So kind of thinking through what a person will have to go through.
Oh, I agree with that. I guess I was thinking more of the IVW part.
Yeah, so maybe just between now and the next meeting, we can be thinking about what that will realistically look like for a person who, has a depression, an isolated depression on their property. And I am, at least kind of considering the possibility that maybe we don't need to distinguish between an IVW and an ILSF in
Which is-
terms of, I don't know if that would actually reduce the burden or not at that point, because they might already be
I'm
getting a
not sure we
delineation.
need both definitions. I would agree there. I mean, what we're really trying to protect is what we think are wetlands.
Yeah, I think you could make a case that you don't really need more protections for an isolated vegetated wetland that's not a vernal pool than for an ILSF. And then it saves some kind of delineation, potentially. I mean, that's,
I guess I'm trying to figure out what the difference might be.
I think if you go and you look at the bylaw, find it again, that spreadsheet I sent, that was pretty helpful.
Okay, I'll go back and take a look.
Yeah. And then I was going through some of the comments Bill, had given us, like person, remove person or whatever, and we can regroup on that later, but I was just kind of coming up with detailed responses because I started looking into that one in particular because so many bylaws have it. And then I tried to search for person in the Wetlands Protection Act and found it really wasn't defined. So a person aggrieved, that's defined, but the person, so I think a lot of bylaws, you know, will include reference to the municipality in their definition. So anyway, I'll come back and look at that and share that research.
Okay.
So Ethan, you're gonna give us some suggested language for the.
For those two definitions?
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll look for that.
And then, okay, and then, so our next meeting is the 31st.
Yes, and then we have the first November meeting on the 4th.
Yeah. And then,
I
Oh,
do
go.
want to just, we are still in public meeting.
Mhm.
Want to go back to just something you all should think about, which is, are we comfortable with this apparent concession from McGrail's clients at 50 Quantapowhat that they're going to move all of 8 feet away from the wetland?
You really shouldn't talk about that without them here.
Really?
I don't think you're allowed to do that.
Really? Okay. Something to think about, folks.
I think what could be helpful is for Ethan to look at the performance standards for the alterations there and share it with the commission ahead of the next hearing.
Yeah, please. Okay,
Yeah, I think that's a way to deal with that one.
yep. Thank you for suggesting that.
And it's you know, good for us to brush up on all of that. So
Mm-hmm. All right. Do we have anything else tonight?
yeah, the only other thing I wanted to talk about is I guess I still wasn't clear the direction Bill was suggesting of going. You know, with the regulations and bylaw, like all in one document. I just haven't seen an example of other towns doing that.
I think his suggestion was that if we present a bylaw and we say we're going to draft regulations separate from the bylaw,
Mhm.
that we're going to have people who are very suspicious of our ability to modify the bylaw as we please, separate from town meeting's approval. And I think he also pointed out that putting the regulations together with the bylaw in one package, all approved by town meeting, takes the ability of a future commission, takes away the ability of a future commission to use to modify the regulations in such a way that vitiates the intent of the bylaw.
Why would we want to do that? I mean, I would love to.
Do what?
Why would we want to we're a permitting group, right? I
We
think
are,
from
yes.
time to time, other boards revisit their regulations, right?
Mhm.
Because things change, processes improve. So you want the ability to revisit your regulations. And when I was looking at it, most of them will say something like, we'll have 5 public meetings, or they're silent on it. But I think if you take something to town meeting and you say there's no wiggle room, like that can also be a double-edged sword.
Well, it does mean that you would have to go back to town meeting to amend any regulations.
And then that's too inflexible, right? And
Okay. All right.
so anyway,
I think this is something we're gonna have to think about, because I understand Bill's argument.
Okay.
Which is
So-
that you could end up with a commission down the road that has a very different bent to it from what we have now.
Okay, because
Especially if the commission is going to continue to be as small as this.
certainly, but we do have, like I looked at, for example, with the stormwater zoning regulations or bylaw that was passed by Wakefield that has the strict stormwater standards. The Advisory Board of Public Works promulgates the regulations.
Mhm.
So they have the ability to amend the regulations.
The stormwater standards.
Yes, for the Wakefield bylaw.
Okay.
So I'm just curious why Bill is suggesting that we should have a different standard when we're a permitting board and they are simply an advisory board. So it's just something to think about. Like I would love, I guess my two asks, Ethan, if you guys are looking, I really don't want to set new ground, right? There are established processes and templates out there. I'm definitely not looking to do anything radically different, right? And certainly, the research I've seen, the formula of a bylaw with regulations, which you can show, whatever. That seems to be the model most bylaws follow. If there's something that you can point to that's like specific and has a track record, then I'd be happy to consider it. Maybe I'm not being open-minded, but I'm not looking to break new ground here.
Yeah, I'll look into seeing if there's other things in place
Okay.
similar to that.
Thank you so much. That'd be really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I understand Bill's suggestion. I'm not necessarily wedded to what he's proposing.
Mhm.
I think we should pay attention to it. And I guess, we're meeting again then next week on Friday, the 31st,
Yes.
to work through. I would hope we'd work through language and come to ground on a fairly firm draft when we conclude.
I think we should be close.
We're gonna do that all by Zoom. I think we've concluded that getting together in person is a waste of time, especially since most of us you two can't have difficulty committing to being in person. And the conference capabilities there are not the most helpful.
Yeah.
So I think we'll stay with virtual meetings.
Okay.
I don't think so far he hasn't suggested that she has any problem with them, has she, Ethan?
Any problem with the meetings?
With virtual meetings?
No?
No.
No.
So, so long as the state legislation allows us to continue this way, I think this is actually a helpful way to do it, especially for these meetings to try to get through the bylaw. So let's see what we can solidify next week. Get to a point where we have something we might want to repost on the website.
Okay. Yeah, but I would like to, Ethan, if we can regroup and just look at our dates, I can send the original because I do want to sort of be consistent with the timing of what we shared. That's helpful. I think we had a June 26th version that you circulated that could certainly be posted, but we can have a couple of different drafts if you want, or just wait until we do the next and we
Why
can.
don't we wait until we have
changes.
another one? I'm not
Okay.
sure it's worth the effort to chase that around.
Yeah, but I do want to just correct the date. That's kind of important.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you all.
All right, we need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
I'll second.
Okay.
all in favor? Jennifer,
Yes.
Eleanor,
Yes,
and I vote yes. We are adjourned. We will
thanks, everyone.
meet in 10 days on the 31st at noon.
Sounds